Hi, Greg Alderman. Welcome to One Voice Board. Today, I want to talk about conflict and trying or attempting to handle conflict in a godly way. All right? So, the first thing I want to invite you to do, as I usually do, is think about a question. And here's the question. How is your organization addressing conflict right now? Now, it's been said before many times that conflict is inevitable. This should be painfully honest to us because we're sinners and everyone we deal with struggles with sin too. So that means that we are going to sin against one another. And one of the primary ways we sin against one another is in the way that we communicate. We don't communicate in a godly way. Remember one of the most important things about communication in the scripture. It says in Ephesians chapter 4 that we are to speak the truth in love. And this is a hard concept for a lot of people. Most people think that speaking the truth means letting it rip any old way they want. That as long as I'm speaking words that are true, I can say them even with an angry tone or at the top of my voice. I want to suggest to you that that's not what the Bible teaches. I struggled with this for a lot of years. I'm the kind of person that is someone who's very quick to get emotional in conversations. My voice and my tone will change. I still remember early on in my marriage that my wife would say to me, hey, you're raising your voice, and I didn't feel like I was. These are things I've had to check myself on. And one of the tools I came across a lot of years ago was recommended by a friend named Bruce Bugbee. He had come across a little book entitled HDR by Dennis Adams. You can find the reference for HDR on my webpage as far as the information and how to identify the author and get a hold of the book. But what I want to do is walk through the basics of what HDR teaches and then include something that my friend Bruce Bugbee also teaches in regard to the book. Think about the letters HDR. You probably already have a good idea of what they stand for. Honest, direct, and respectful. Think about these three little words with me for just a minute. What does it mean to be honest? Now, as I share this next definition about honest, it might not be the words that you would use to describe the word, but digest and chew on the definition. Here's the definition. Honest, being truthful about your thoughts and feelings. Being truthful about your thoughts and feelings. You see, most people, when they think about the word honest, is they think about, I'm going to be honest about you. But what we're talking about in HDR, especially when it comes to high leverage conversations, is we want to be honest about ourselves. You've probably heard this expression before. Use I statements when you speak to people. I'm going to add to that. Use I statements and own your own stuff. Talk about how you're feeling and what's going through your mind. Be honest, be truthful. Dare I say, be transparent. Be transparent about your motives. Be transparent about what you're after. See, a lot of times we hide our motives, we hide our thoughts, we hide our feelings, and when we're honest about the other person or we're honest about what we think, it comes off with high emotion, all right? So being honest is, first of all, especially in a high leverage conversation, being honest about ourselves. The next little letter, D, is direct. Be honest and then be direct. This one, you're probably going to have more of a clue about what we're actually talking about when I put the definition up. Direct means being truthful in simple and straightforward terms. In other words, getting to the point. Or you've probably heard this phrase, not beating around the bush. Don't use 1,000 words when 5 will do. One of my favorite sayings that was attributed to Abraham Lincoln, but I know that he had read it in the past as well, is he wrote in a letter one time to a person he was communicating with, I'm sorry for the length of this letter. I didn't have time to shorten it. You see, one of the reasons we're not as direct as we could be is because we don't think about what we need to say in advance. We're not thinking about the most concise and precise way to say what we mean. The other thing that we all tend to do, and I do this as well, I like to think of myself as being direct, but a lot of times I fall into this same ditch as everybody else, is I kind of use a lot of words hoping that the person I'm communicating with gets the difficult message I'm trying to say. If I'm being direct, then I'm not beating around the bush. I'm not taking a wide path around getting to the main point. I'm trying to speak honestly about my thoughts and feelings, and then I'm being direct about what I'm trying to say. I remember one time somebody had come into my office and talked literally for 15 minutes straight and left, and I had no idea what they said. When I checked back in later on with them, they thought they were very direct with me, and I had to ask a lot of questions to find out, what were you really talking about? You see, that's an example of not being direct. So think about what it means for you. Are you good at being direct? Do you need to work on it? Do you need to take more time about what it means to fashion a more concise and direct message? And the last thing is respectful. This is, I think, the crux of the matter. This is how we speak the truth in love. We're respectful, even if the other person is not. So what's the definition I want you to think about with respectful? Being truthful without blaming, confronting, or trying to control the other person. Think about that. Without blaming, without confronting, without trying to control. Wow. When I check myself, think about your direct message. What am I trying to accomplish in the direct message? Am I trying to share my own thoughts and feelings? Or am I trying to shift blame? Am I trying to control? Am I trying to manipulate? Am I confronting them when I'm really shaping it like I'm being honest and direct and respectful? These are all important things we need to think about when we deal with tough conversations, when we deal with conflict. In our organization, meaning the last church that I was leading, we talked about HDR often. It became common language. In fact, we learned how to encourage one another to be honest, direct, and respectful. And the God's honest truth is most of us can be good at being either honest and direct or respectful. The interesting thing about being honest and direct is you can speak the truth without being loving. And the interesting thing about only being respectful is you can be nice without speaking the truth. A lot of church cultures fall into being respectful without being honest and direct. I call it church polite. Maybe you have some experience with that too. So what would it mean for your board to adopt a policy to have HDR? Now, I promised you one last letter, if you will, from my friend Bruce Bugbee. He adds to Dennis Adams' teaching, honest, direct, respectful, and timely. What does it mean to be honest, direct, and respectful in our message and actually to deliver it on time? If you're like me and like most other people, a lot of times what we do is we bargain. We hope it goes away. We hope it resolves itself on its own. But unless a message is delivered in a timely way, a lot of times the importance of the message is diminished. Hey, if you want to talk with me more about HDR or anything else where I can be helpful to you in your ministry or your organization, don't hesitate to reach out to me at greg@onevoiceboard.org.